What's up, guys? I'm here today with a Fantasy Strike guide. A lot of people have asked me, like, what kind of stuff should I do starting out in the game? And obviously, I think the first things that you should do when you get into the game are first do the interactive tutorial, which is right here under Watch, and then watch the character spotlight videos, at least for the characters you're interested in playing. These are really, really good, and they have a lot of good, fairly deep tech in them for each of these characters. So check these out. But after you've done that, kind of what's next? So I thought what I would do today is I'm going to do 12 tips for Fantasy Strike that are not contained within these character spotlight videos, and I'm going to do one per character. So 12 tips, one per character. Hope these help you out, guys. Alright, so first up we're going to look at Grave. Grave is a zoner, and you may know him as more of a defensive character, where you're using fireballs and the wind and stuff to keep the opponent away. But he does have some fairly good offensive capabilities as well. The tip I want to give you for Grave is that you can do essentially a pure 50-50, a very hard to block mix-up, by jumping in and either doing A to hit on the front, or doing B to hit on the back. And this is fairly easy to set up. It works off both his throws, forward throw or back throw, which is pretty sick. You can also do it off of his sweep. So if you land a sweep, just pause a little bit, then jump forward, and then the opponent is going to have to guess front or back. And even more amazing is against a lot of characters, this is actually a safe jump against the reversals. So you can see I have time to land and block Geiger's flash kick, or if I do the spin, I can make it whiff. This will lose to stuff like DeGrey ground super, so do be careful against some characters, but against most characters, this is a very simple and effective vortex that you can apply to keep them guessing. Next up, we're taking a look at Jaina. So I want to talk about Jaina's dive kick, her jump A. This is an extremely powerful tool because it changes your jump arc. Very hard for some characters to anti-air. But another thing that makes this move really tricky is if you do it very late in a jump, people will usually whiff a throw. They feel the gap in a jump and they'll mash throw, and then you get a free 3 damage punish, which is pretty sick. This is especially effective after a knockdown. Just jump in, do a super late dive kick, and see if you can get that throw bait. Depending on the situation, this can also bait various reversals, as you can see, which is very nice as well. So even though, again, Jaina is also a zoner like Grave, do not neglect her dive kick. It is a very powerful offensive tool. Next up is Geiger. So Geiger's main mechanic is that if he walks forward, his gear icon resets, which means he loses access to both his projectile and his reversal. So this can become an issue if the opponent knocks you down and they cross you up. All of a sudden, if you're holding block, your back input becomes a forward input, and you can no longer reversal out of their cross up. So my tip for you, this sounds unintuitive, but in situations like this where you expect the opponent to cross you up, let go of the stick. By letting go of the stick, you will no longer walk forward, and now you have the ability to use your flash gear even if you get crossed up. So this is very important for matchups like setsuki, Quince, stuff like that, where the character is frequently getting to the other side of you and messing up your reversals. So pay attention to that. Alright, next up is my favorite character in the game, Argagarg. A question I get a lot about Argagarg is how to effectively use his ground super. I would say his ground super is one of the more confusing and maybe unique and deep moves in the game. And it's also one of his strongest moves, and it's absolutely necessary to help him out in a lot of matchups. So here is the most simple and basic way to use his ground super I would recommend when you're starting out. If the opponent knocks you down, activate super on wake up, and pay attention to the opponent's actions during the screen freeze. If you see an attack, you can simply block the attack and activate the shield again to get the opponent off you. If you see a throw, it may be tempting to Yomi counter, but don't, because actually, if you see the animation of the throw, that means the throw is going to whiff through the invincibility frames of the activation. Instead, what you can do, if you see the throw coming out, just throw yourself. Their throw is going to whiff through you, and you get a throw, and landing a throw is really great for arg because it sends them full screen, or you can back throw them into the corner to get some screen real estate. So if you see the throw happening, don't be afraid. You're not going to get thrown. Just throw the opponent back. Now note, if you see the opponent not doing anything, you are still going to have to guess. Usually, I just let go of the controls and go for a Yomi counter. Most players, especially at low levels, when they see this super activate and they're standing point blank not doing anything, they will go for throw, but you have to use your own judgment. Think about what the opponent might want to do in that situation and plan around it. But if you do see an animation for a throw or a move, you always have an answer and a good way to react. So pay attention to that when you activate this super. Next up we have Setsuki. The primary move I want to emphasize with Setsuki here is doing her jumping cape, her jump C, into a dive kick with either A or back plus A. This is covered a little bit in the character spotlight, but let me just say that this move is very, very cursed. You can do some absurd stuff with this. As you can see, what happens there is I get a cross up with the first hit, and then the second hit hits on front. That's extremely ambiguous. Almost everyone is going to get hit by that. It's absurd. Even in the corner, you can cross up very effectively with this cape. And it's her best combo starter, so you get lots of damage off it. It's very ridiculous. And one more bonus thing about this. Against characters like Onimaru or Rook, where their only reversals have armor instead of invincibility, you can very easily do multiple hits very quickly. You can very easily knock these characters down and then do 2 hits so quickly that you'll break their armored reversal. This is also even safe against his super because you'll just fly out of the way. That works against Rook as well. So this is a super, super powerful tool that you can use for a ton of dirt, guys, when you're playing Setsuki. So next up, I have a tip for Valerie. If you guys didn't know this, this is a universal mechanic that if you Yomi counter, you instantly get a full super meter. So with Valerie, this is basically an invitation to do her air super. Her air super is ridiculous if you have the opponent knocked down, but getting a knockdown can actually be pretty difficult with Valerie. But if you Yomi counter, it's perfect. Not only do you get that knockdown that she kind of struggles to get, but you also get a full meter, which you can use to really start going crazy and mixing up the opponent. So I recommend whenever you get a Yomi counter with Valerie, when you're just starting out, go for this super setup and see what you can pull off until your opponent figures it out and starts playing around it. But until then, you're going to get a lot of round wins off of just one Yomi counter if you do this. Next up, we're going to talk about Rook. So kind of similar to Grave, Rook has a very, very ambiguous cross-up situation that he can put the opponent in. So when you get a knockdown, you can go for cross-up body splash, and you can actually loop the situation if the opponent is not willing to block the cross-up. But your other option is you can use his jump C to hit on front, and this is completely unreactable. As far as I'm concerned, no opponent is going to cleanly react to whether you're doing the cross-up or hit on front. You can also make things even more crazy with stuff like vines. Vines can occasionally be really ambiguous whether it's going to hit on the front or the back. So tools like this are really, really hard for certain opponents to deal with, especially since, you know, some characters like Grave have kind of slower or weirder reversals, so you can get safe jumps and stuff like that. So really, really strong cross-ups that Rook can put you in. Watch out for it, guys, or use it effectively if you're a Rook player. Next up, we're looking at Midori. So, you know, Midori, he's a very effective grappler. Once he gets in, he can put you in really crazy and hard to deal with throw mix-ups, but he struggles at getting past fireballs. It can be really, really hard for Midori to get in. You know, all his moves pretty much are going to lose to fireballs, so you have to watch out for that. But one really, really powerful anti-fireball tool he has is actually his super. So if you have full meter, you can see, you can react, use the super to get the screen freeze, and then punish the fireball. You can even do this from, like, ridiculously far away. Using his back A, you can see, even though I trade, it's a great situation for Midori because he gets to start setting up, you know, command throw, mix-ups, and stuff like that. And I'm sure what you're saying is like, yeah, this is all well and good when I have super, but what about for the large percentage of the match where you don't have super? But keep in mind that Midori's parry actually builds him a good chunk of super meter. I believe it's 25%, in addition to unlocking his unblockable command throw. So by playing smartly and utilizing his counter, you can build super much more frequently than you normally would be able to, which means that you're going to get more dragon activations, which means it's going to be easier for you to get in and easier for you to win. So do pay attention to your meter. It's really, really important as Midori, and take full advantage of those dragon activations when you get them. Next up, we're taking a look at Lum. So you may know already that Lum can cross up with his B attack. You can see you can hit the opponent on the back, forcing them to switch their guard or get mixed up. But in the corner, this can get absolutely absurd. If you knock the opponent down, throw an item, and then do B, automatically, basically, the timing works out that you're going to get a cross up there. And depending on what item you get, absolutely absurd things can happen here. Sometimes, if you get a lucky roll on the item, you just do a huge combo and win the entire round. So definitely don't neglect this cross-up roll. It's a powerful mix-up tool, and whenever Lum lands a throw, you're putting yourself in a good situation to get one. And instead of going for the cross-up, you can just throw again. And then all of a sudden, your opponent is still in a really scary situation where they're going to have to deal with the item. They're going to have to worry about, are you going to go for another cross-up? Are you going to go for another throw? These corner throw situations are really, really good for Lum and really, really hard for the opponent to take advantage of. So be sure to use them wisely, guys. Next up, we're taking a look at DeGrey. I would say other than his C, which is the ghost attack, I would say that his B into A, the dagger fall, is his most important move. I know it looks unassuming, but if you look at that number in the upper left, +9 frame advantage, that's what makes this move absurd. Anytime the opponent blocks or gets hit by this move, they are instantly in a very scary situation where they might have to deal with getting thrown. If they continue blocking, you can continue pressuring. I mean, you're at plus frames, so you don't have too much to be scared of. If the opponent is, say, trying to jump to avoid the situation, you can use his forward A to catch them out, and you get 4 damage off that in the corner, which is absurd, obviously. And God forbid, if they're mashing buttons after they block this, players at like gold and below, they're mashing buttons a lot of the time, and if they do after they block this, you just get 4 damage anywhere on the screen. So absurd damage DeGrey can output. Depending on the situation he puts you in after he makes you block the dagger fall, it's very, very tricky, very hard to deal with. So take strong advantage of this otherwise unassuming looking move. Next up is another one of my favorites here, Quince. So if you've played very much Quince, you may know that the major downside of his B, his teleport cross-up kick move, the major downside of this move is that the opponent can jump out and they can get a free punish if you go for the cross-up and they jump out. It's pretty dangerous, but there is one situation where the opponent can't jump out, which is after a back throw. Quince's back throw is really incredible, and the reason is it perfectly times you up to set up a meaty cross-up, which you can see you're +9 after they block that cross-up. So again, you're in an absurd situation here where you can just hit them and maybe try to repeat the situation. Or you can just do back throw into cross-up, which they can't jump out of, and then just do back throw again, and they can't jump out again, and you can loop it. And if they try to, you know, Yomi counter, you can go for something else. So his back throw is absolutely ridiculous in terms of the mix-up that it gives him and the plus frames that he can force himself into. But do be careful. Characters with good wake-up reversals can get their way out, so do take note of that. But against characters without a really fast, good reversal like this, this is just absolutely absurd, and you can win the entire round off of just one back throw and the resulting mix-up situation that you put the opponent in. So go for the back throw with Quince, guys. And then finally at number 12 here we have Onimaru. So Onimaru's jumping A is a very interesting move. I'm sure you know that you can bounce off the opponent's head with it. That's its intended use. But it has some other kind of cool stuff it can do as a movement option. So you can see you fall very fast when you're using this move. So if we compare how long it takes Onimaru to walk all the way across the screen versus how long it takes him to essentially wave dash across the screen using his jump A, he just goes so much faster. So this has a ton of applications. For example, it's much faster to go over fireballs this way than it would be to simply, you know, normal jump over them and maybe get yourself punished. You can use it for like set play situations. So if I do like a mid-range back A and I try to walk up and do another one, it's really hard for me to get in range to hit the opponent as they're waking up. But if I do this little wave dash, it's not hard at all. You just get in there so fast and you can continue applying the pressure. This also works great after you land his super. If you land a long-range super, it can be really hard to get in range to continue pressuring. But if you utilize this tool, you can see we hit with just long range and then we're in perfect range to go for it again. So this is really cool. I love the way you can use this to move around the screen. Make sure you mix this up as well with his jump B to keep the opponent guessing. Don't get too predictable. I am a huge fan of the movement options that are created using this little faux wave dash thing that's in his jumping A. So that's going to be it for the tips, guys. I hope very much that you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Let me know down in the comments, do you want more of this? I have lots more cool character-specific stuff that I can get into, but that's going to be it for stuff for this video. I don't want to make it too long. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.